When you're exiting that checkout, I would suggest not to opt to have that lace cut until you know that wig fits and that lace fits. A floating lace that's floating off of your head, I'm not talking about down here, right at the hairline, is not magically going to become glueless when you cut that lace. And a glueless lace front wig should be, in fact, glueless. So today I want to talk about purchasing wigs online. Things you should be aware of to avoid getting potentially taken advantage of, either intentionally or accidentally. There are certain key things that women need to be aware of. We don't know what we don't know until we know it, and oftentimes we find that out the hard way. In today's climate, the way wigs are often sold, there usually is a return policy. I say usually because not everybody offers one. I would say if you're buying wigs online, sight unseen, it is really important that there is a return policy in place. I have purchased without a return policy. Early on in my wig buying life, return policies didn't exist. As the industry changed and people have to be more competitive, there are now return policies. That's a good thing for people out there in the world that are buying online when they don't have access to a brick and mortar store. But in and of itself, it's not going to protect you if you don't know what you have to be careful of within this process so that the return policy actually stays intact. Again, I have purchased without a return policy, only in person and only within a process I knew was going to be a customized process. So I was not going to be left on the lurch for some of the things that I'm going to be discussing today. So step one, read the return policy. And I mean every single word of that return policy. You want to know it inside and out. Don't skim it. Don't just glance over it. It's really, really important because there are certain things that will negate a return policy. There's the obvious things like in a lace front wig, if you cut the lace, that will negate the return policy. That wig is now yours. So why is that relevant? Because when you check out of purchasing some places, they offer you the ability to cut the lace for you on your behalf because a lot of women are scared to cut their own lace. So they say, yes, cut the lace. So now you just negated the return policy. If they say, do you want face framing layers? Would you like us to add color on that? Those are two things that will also, in most cases, completely negate the return policy. So cutting the lace, cutting 2 snips of hairs on that thing, coloring, all negate the return policy. And you're kind of not thinking about that when you're checking out. You think you have return policy. You're not looking at the full picture because you're brand new to this. And who can fault you for not looking at the full picture when you are just brand new to wearing hair? There's so much encompassing in all of this, and it's very overwhelming. So you need to be your own advocate within this. And I will say there are other things within the return policy for specific vendors that are problematic for me. When I was looking to buy a lace front wig in the last couple of years, when I was going to purchase online, this one stood out to me because I know for a fact why this is a problem. If a vendor says you cannot repart the wig, meaning I can't take it from this part to where it needs to be so where I'm going to wear it, if this is not where I'm wearing it, and that negates the return policy, I can't actually purchase from that vendor if they're unwilling to ship it to me in the desired part. So right to left or left to right. That's how I would say circumvent that. If you're working with somebody that says you can't repart it, say, hey, I know I can't repart the wig, otherwise it negates the return policy, but can you part it for me because I part right to left or left to right? I can't really see what it's going to look like if I don't repart it. Why is this important? Because when wigs have the hair ventilated, it means the hair is tied into the wig. Sometimes where you want to actually part the wig, it's not going to have enough hair on that part line for you to be able to wear the wig in that part line. So you will have a balding part line in that area. You won't be able to wear it how it best suits your face. And now you couldn't find that out until after you purchase the wig, you're beyond the return policy, you reparted it, it's yours, and you're like, crap, I have a balding part line, what am I going to do now? Now you're going to have to find a third-party vendor that offers ventilation services, the ability to tie hair into the wig and fill in your part line. Or if you're working with a manufacturer that has a factory, they will be able to send it to the factory and have that done on your behalf. But now you're out the wig, and it's probably going to cost you extra money to make that happen. So to avoid that, we need to make sure that we are being able to check the wig where we are going to wear it. Position it, part line, everything. I think that it makes more sense. I know it's a double work to actually get the wig and then have to send it back for additional services. But to me, it's more protective to do it in that regard. And you can inquire with the person you're purchasing from. Like, I want to keep the return policy intact, so I want to get the wig. Because let's also not forget that the wig in itself has to be able to fit your head. That part as well, even if it's just a closed front wig with no lace. But if it's a lace front wig, what many people don't know is that all our foreheads are different. Every single piece of lace sewn onto a wig is not going to be uniform across the board. Like, even if you purchase from the same vendor, You could have floating lace. So what does that mean? Meaning when you get your wig lace intact, you need to check to make sure that the wig has a flush lace front hairline. Now, you can't cut it, but you are able to actually, pull the hair back. A lot of times wigs come with lace that's like down to here, and that's the part you're cutting off, right? So we don't care what's floating over here, but the part that's like right here, okay, closest to the hairline has to actually be pretty friggin' flush. If you run your finger over that lace, it should be sitting pretty flush. It shouldn't be sucking the life out of your forehead, but it shouldn't be loose, because if it's loose, when it's not cut, it's not going to magically cinch when you cut it. A lot of women buy glueless lace front wigs and end up in a situation where they have to use glue. They literally wanted to purchase a glueless lace front wig, cut the lace, and realize, wait, the lace doesn't lay flat. What do I do now? And they're told by the vendor, well, you can use glue. It's no big deal. You can just use a little glue and tack it down. And you're like, well, that kind of negates the point of buying a glueless lace front wig. In my opinion, a glueless lace front wig should indeed be glueless. That's what you're paying for. There's nothing wrong if you want to glue your wig, but that's a whole different thing. Also, glue will degrade the lace faster, and you need to be aware of that. Everybody gets to decide what they want to do with their wig, but a lot of times when you're jumping into this, you want the easiest thing possible. You're trying to get the wig on your head, you're figuring out the grip. You don't want to be mucking around oftentimes with figuring out how to tack your lace down. And also, what if you have a sensitive scalp? I have a very sensitive scalp. I didn't realize how sensitive till I shaved my head and realized that I can't even shave my head like a normal person because I have folliculitis. Something I didn't even consider when I was thinking about way back in the day that bonding was going to be my holy grail. I still think bonding for the right person is an appropriate hair process. How would that have worked for me? I probably would be allergic to the glue. So if you're super sensitive in the scalp and you bought a glueless lace front wig and they're telling you to use glue or tape and you find that you're allergic to the glue or tape, regardless of what you're using, or it's getting red and irritated, now you're brand new into wearing wigs, you're frustrated with the process, and you're having to do something you didn't even want to do. And most of the time, people aren't even wanting to wear the wig. So now this is becoming very, very complicated. Got to read the return policy. You got to check that the lace fits. When you are exiting that checkout, I would suggest not to opt to have that lace cut until you know that wig fits and that lace fits. I have tried multiple wigs within the same line from the same vendor, and the lace did not fit. Meaning I could not purchase any one of those wigs. Literally the same line, same line, same color, same everything from the same vendor. All different lace fits, meaning all different lace fits on me. Apparently I have a pretty narrow forehead here. So for me, I needed to have some lace probably will fit out of the box, but for me, I need to be able to work with somebody that's going to be able to also tighten the lace. Some people can do that, either through the manufacturer you're working with, something to inquire about, to know ahead of time how much customization can be done on this, if anything. And some third-party vendors will be able to actually do it. And some people are very DIY women and they can dart the lace themselves. That's not something that I would do myself because I'm not DIY and I would be terrified to do that. So your customizations, best to do after you know that lace fits, you know that that wig fits, you know that ideally they're letting you repart it or they reparted it on your behalf. And so you can see if it works. And then, yes, cut and color absolutely will bring a wig to life. There's no question about it. But before you commit to a wig, you do actually want to make sure that wig is actually going to work for you. Things to be aware of also is, you may get a wig thinking that a human hair wig and assume that all human hair wigs can be colored, which is not true. It takes multiple ponytails to actually make a wig. So also they may not be able to be colored uniformly. So wig coloring is a specialty of itself. It's not like coloring hair growing out of your head. It's not even like coloring hair growing out of your head that you've colored 5 times over. There was processing that was done at the factory level. Sometimes there's silicone involved. And it came from likely 3 or 4 different people to make that one wig. So it's going to be lifting in different ways. And some wigs cannot be colored, period, at all whatsoever. That thing cannot be lifted. Maybe color can be deposited, but it's going to be a big problem. So, something to be aware of, buying a wig. Is that wig going to be able to be colored? The cuticle being intact probably will factor into that, and also how processed that wig is coming from the vendor. Something else to ask for. And also I would document maybe what you're doing if you're emailing with a vendor, to protect yourself. I'm a big fan of paper trail to protect yourself and asking all the questions. Do not be afraid to ask questions within this process, because I also feel like in asking the questions that you want to ask that are very fair to ask when you're buying a human hair wig, which is often multi-thousands of dollars, if you're getting an icky vibe, if somebody's making you feel like you're a problem, if somebody's giving you like any kind of pushback for very valid concerns, that's kind of maybe not the place that you want to work with, because you need to have a good relationship with that person. And I believe the person that you're working with factors into the success of the outcome of that wig in your life. And what I mean by that is if you have a good first experience when you're purchasing the wig, the vendor is kind, they're working with you, they listen to your questions and concerns, they're not dismissive, they help you understand how to wear the wig. If you email them because you're concerned and they respond promptly, if you have a good first experience in this, it sets you up for success, in my view, as opposed to people that are buying wigs and finding out they have a closet of unworn wigs, they're getting ghosted by the vendor, they are feeling very lost. Each time something negative happens, it takes away from the experience. So it's not just the lost money, which is a problem, but it's the lost ability for this to be a real and actual viable process in your life. You don't want that to be taken away from you from the jump. It's getting hot in here. That's a long way of saying, be very careful. Ask questions. Don't be embarrassed of asking questions, and go with your gut. Always go with your gut. You're getting a bad vibe, go with your gut. Oh, one more thing. Just because you see a picture of what something looks like online, a wig on somebody's head, does not necessarily mean that that's going to look like that on you. And also, when you see a wig that's on a mannequin, it doesn't mean like what it's looking like on the mannequin, it's going to look like on you. They look like two very different things. Oftentimes, the wig that looked the worst on the mannequin looked the best on me, and vice versa in that regard. Can't tell from the mannequin. You can't tell from a human model wearing the wig. So that's what I have to say about that. Nothing wrong with buying wigs online. I think that if you have the option to buy in person, that is preferable for sure. But also be aware that some people that offer return policies online do not offer return policies in person. That's something else that you may not be aware of. So you're like, wait, they had a return policy online, but if you picked it up in person and you did that interaction, you may not actually have a return policy in person. There are a lot of these little things that you just have to ask questions. A floating lace that's floating off of your head, I'm not talking about on here, right at the hairline, is not magically going to become glueless when you cut that lace. And a glueless lace front wig should be, in fact, glueless. It's me, back again. One more thing I did not mention, but I want you to know just so you know. You won't really know the quality of hair on the wig you're purchasing until you see that wig in an air-dried state. Heat tools can actually hide a lot. It can hide a lot of stuff about the quality of the hair, make it look a lot better. Obviously, that's even for people that are growing their own hair out of their head. Obviously, you apply heat, it looks better. Same is true for wigs, and it also hides the true quality of hair in some cases. Now, there are some vendors that will show the wig to you in an air-dried state, and it is their preference to do so. So they're kind of doing the opposite of what some people do, which is show it in their best light. They're showing the wig to you in what is kind of the worst light for the wig to be in, which is the air-dried state. That's the true mark of how you can see the quality of hair, is in an air-dried state. So they do it that way. So you're not getting all the curls when you're trying it on, but I want to see the wig in the worst state. Its worst state, I should say. Like, it's not its worst state, but like its realistic state. I can put curls in my own wig, The thing is, a lot of people selling wigs online are likely not going to take the extra step and time to do that, because it's work to wash the wig and then send it out that way. It's not being presented in the best possible way. And, they're trying to sell a product, and you're not really going to sell products, if the wigs just are looking super real. I don't know what the word is for that, but they're always showing it with the curls or the beachy waves or whatever, which is okay, but it's not okay when we don't know what the quality of hair is. It's one of those things where you just don't know until you wash it, and you can end up with a $3,000 Swiffer, which did happen to me because that thing turned into a horse's tail after it was washed. And I can use heat tools, and I applied so much heat to that. It took me days to beat this thing into submission, and it's still not right. It's a costly mistake, So something to be aware of. Sometimes, it's a comfort level thing about who you're purchasing from, but a lot of places are not going to make that extra step. But you need to know that you won't really know the quality of that hair until you wash it and you air dry it. That's when you really will know the quality of it. The only way to circumvent that is only working with vendors that are willing to show it to you in an air dry state, but the majority of them probably online are not going to be doing that. Just something to be aware of, because the more we know, the better chance we have at having success within this, and education is power and all that. That's all I have for you guys today. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Consider subscribing, and just be careful out there. Wigs are amazing. They were life-changing for me. They're not for everybody, but you want to do it safely, you want to do it correctly, and you don't want to burn a hole in your pocket in the process of finding the right wig for you.